Welcome to How to Earn a Grade with Standards-Based Grading. This video will explain how you earn a grade throughout this course. Here, you can see a set of sample learning objectives. These are the skills you are expected to learn throughout the course. The course grade is made up of mastery scores for each learning objective listed in the syllabus. You will earn one mastery score on a scale of 0 to 4 for each learning objective. Your course grade is determined by taking the average of all your mastery scores. Let's get into the details.
There is growing research about what equitable grading means. As part of that research, we have come to understand opportunities for learning should not be used to determine your grade. Instead, these are used to give you feedback and help you to correct mistakes made on the path to learning. For this reason, no grades will be given for homework completion or other learning opportunities. The assigned homework is provided as an aid to students to practice what is covered in class. Research shows that students who complete homework typically do well on the graded assignments where mastery scores are earned. Homework practice helps students to acquire the skills and understanding necessary to master the learning objectives. Although homework completion is not required, it is strongly recommended students attempt as much of the homework as possible.
The only assignments that are given mastery scores are quizzes, exams, and the final exam. You will have multiple attempts to earn a higher mastery score throughout the semester. For most learning objectives, you will have 3 opportunities to earn your final mastery score. The first attempt is on a quiz, the second attempt will be an exam, and the last attempt will be the final exam. For each learning objective, you will earn a single score on a scale of 0 to 4. Each learning objective will have its own mastery score of 0 to 4 based on the course grading rubric. Here is a sample rubric to give you an idea of the course expectations. The official rubric for the course will be listed in the syllabus.
Each mastery score is similar to a standard lettered grade. Earning a 4 is similar to saying that a student has A-level knowledge, while a 3 is B-level knowledge, and so forth. Some learning objectives will have multiple problems that allow you to earn a single mastery score of 0 to 4, while other learning objectives might assess with just one problem. Here, you can see a sample of student's quiz that has been graded. The student earned a 2 out of 4 on learning objective F3. This was the student's first attempt and shows that they are starting to show mastery of the learning objectives, but still have room for improvement. The student can improve their mastery score for learning objective F3 by earning more points on the exam and/or the final. Due to class time restrictions, there are times when the maximum score opportunities for quizzes will be a 3 instead of 4. Remember, if you miss a daily quiz, your current score will be a 0, but it can be replaced with your future exam score.
This is an example of a grade sheet for exam 1. Notice the first column lists the learning objectives covered on this exam. The second column is where students will write in their current learning objective scores earned on quizzes prior to this exam. Now we can see that this student filled in their scores in column 2, and the grade sheet is ready to be turned in on exam day. After the instructor grades your exam, they will fill in the exam learning objective scores. For all learning objectives that the student received the same score, the current score will be unchanged. You can see that F2 and F8 have the same scores, so F2 will remain a 3 and F8 will remain a 4. Now let's focus on the learning objectives that this student scored higher on this exam. We can see the student earned a higher score for F1, F3, and F7. For these learning objectives, the student will receive the new higher exam score as their current learning objective score. The original F1 score was a 1, but the new score is a 3, so the current learning objective score will be a 3. This process is repeated, resulting in a 4 for F3 and a 3 for F7. Now we have learning objectives F4, F5, and F6, where the student earned a lower score on the exam than the quizzes. In these cases, the current learning objective score will be the average of the 2 scores. Looking at F4, the average of 2 and 1 results in a current learning objective score of 1.5.
The final exam is cumulative. Every student must take the final exam to pass the course. with the caveat that you are only required to demonstrate your knowledge for learning objectives for which you earned less than a 2.0 on the current learning objective scores. Here's an example of the final exam grade sheet. You can see the directions at the top of the page for filling it out. Please take a moment to pause and read the directions. Each student will need to fill out the current overall grade, column 2 and 3 of this document, and then turn it in on the day of the final exam. Start by opening the gradebook in Canvas. Fill out the current overall grade, which can be found in the upper right-hand corner of the Canvas gradebook. Then fill out the current learning objective scores also found in the Canvas gradebook. Notice the learning objectives are grouped by the previous exams you have taken. To understand how to read your grades in Canvas, be sure to check out the video titled Understanding Your Grade in Canvas. Now let's look at a student's scores. This student has filled out the current overall grade and current learning objective scores. We can see the student's scores show as a 52.5% in Canvas, which is equivalent to a C in the grading rubric. The student must now decide which learning objectives they are required to do, which are optional and they would like to attempt to improve, and which scores they can plan to keep. To do this, students write R, O, or K in the third column. Let's start with the learning objectives this student is required to complete on the final exam. Any scores for which a student receives a score lower than 2.0 is required on the final exam. We see that this student is required to test on learning objectives F4 and F5. We will write an R for required in column 3. This means on the final exam, the student is required to complete problem number 11 to prove they have mastered F4 and must complete problem 4 parts A and B to show mastery of F5. Now we are ready to decide which scores the student would like to keep. You can keep all the scores that are 2.0 or higher, or you can attempt to improve some of these scores. The student should clearly keep all 4s. That means we will keep the 4s for F1 and F7. The question becomes, how do you decide if you want to improve other scores? Recall the course grade is determined by finding the average of all learning objective mastery scores. In the syllabus, there is a link to the video that shows you how to determine your what if grade. This might be most helpful in giving you an idea of how to reach your ideal grade in this course. Remember, all final exam scores that are lower than the current score will be averaged like in each exam. For this reason, I would suggest keeping all mastery learning objectives that have a 3.2 or higher. If you aren't sure, then just write an O for optional and you can determine if you want to do the problem or problems associated with that learning objective on the day of the final exam. Now that you have filled out your final exam grade sheet, you can use it to study by focusing on learning objectives you still need to master. Then, during the final exam, you can use the sheet to determine which problems you need to complete to improve your mastery on all required learning objectives and any optional ones as well. The process for determining your mastery learning objective scores is the same as used for each current learning objective score from the exam. Just as before, if your final exam learning objective score is the same or higher, then that score will be used. If you earned a lower score, then it will be averaged with your current learning objective score. The goal here is to show what you eventually learned in this course, and this grading system will reflect just that.
The final exam is your last graded work before calculating your course grade. Your course grade is determined by taking the average of all learning objective mastery scores. If the course has 30 learning objectives, then add up all 30 learning objective mastery scores and then divide by the total number of learning objectives, which, in this example, is 30. Canvas only works in percentages, so here we have the breakdown of the scoring on the 4-point scale and the percentages that match each letter grade. For more information on this, see the video titled Benefits of Standard-Based Grading. If you have any questions or concerns about this grading system, make sure to ask. This is most likely a very new idea to you, and it might take some time to wrap your brain around it. Your instructor will always be willing to answer any questions you have about this grading system.